Melissa Bro, and you're listening to the Fenzi Dog Sports Podcast, brought to you by the Fenzi Dog Sports Academy, an online school dedicated to providing high-quality instruction for competitive dog sports, using only the most current and progressive training methods. Today, we'll be talking to Petra Ford about engagement, what it is, how we can teach our dogs how to maintain it, even in the ring. Hi, Petra. Welcome back to the podcast.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me back.
Awesome. I'm super happy to have you back. It's a good topic, and I'm looking forward to chatting about it. So before we jump in, really, can you just remind everybody kind of a little bit about who you are, who your dogs are, maybe a little on your background?
Sure. I historically have competed, well, primarily in some other sports, but primarily competition obedience. I very recently started my foray into nose work, and my two dogs just both got their, oh God, what is it? I don't even know the name of it. NACSW1, NW1, NW1. I think that's what it's called. Oh God, that's how new I am. And they, both dogs just did their rally novice debut, which was quite entertaining. I was entertaining because I did not know what I was doing. And, but it was fun. It's been super fun. And, right now I only have two. I have Zaina, she's 10, and I have Zesty, and he is 6, and we are waiting for a puppy.
Very exciting. Fingers crossed. So engagement feels like kind of one of those terms that lots of people kind of throw around, but it maybe sometimes means different things to different people. So, what does engagement kind of mean to you? How are you defining
in the old days, when I first started doing obedience, we called it attention, right? So we were basically saying to the dog, like, hey, pay attention, ignore what's going on over there and pay attention to me. And we kind of told the dog that's what they had to do. To me, engagement is the dog is making the choice to choose me over the environment, which sounds like really lovely. It still has to be taught and trained. It's also more of having a conversation, right? Like, I'm not just saying to the dog, leave that and pay attention, because quite frankly, I could do that. My dog could look at me, but still be thinking about the environment, right? So their attention is still split, and I don't want that. I want my dog to give me everything, right? Like to be giving me 100% of their focus, 100% of their attention and their energy, and I want them to want to do it. So that is my definition of engagement. The dog is all in. The dog is voluntarily letting go of the environment. If the environment's very powerful, the dog is at least voluntarily making a really big effort to ignore it and attend to me or the task at hand. So that's what I would say is my definition.
You mentioned in there that, sometimes it's possible for them to be looking at you, but to have split attention, or, the way I usually think of that is, the lights are on, but no one's home. They're kind of staring at you, but not paying attention really. How do you know when the dog is genuinely engaged versus when they're kind of in that, staring blank phase?
Oh yeah. Well, if everyone could just borrow Zaina, you would know, because she is the queen of staring right at me. Like, she'll be right next to me, looking at me eyeball to eyeball and thinking about something over there. And I can tell because either her little nose like goes off to one, just the tip of her nose goes off to one side. And I'm like, Zaina, and she's like, fine. Or her ears, or sometimes like you'll hear something and her eyes get really big and she's like, I'm looking at you, but I know she's not paying attention. So the way you know is it's no different than when you're having a conversation with someone, right? So you're sitting across the table from someone, you're looking at each other, you're talking. That person's phone's in their pocket, or nowadays it's not even in their pocket, but let's hope it's in their pocket. It dings, they got a text, and you can see in their eyes that even though they are looking at you, they're wondering who sent them the text, right? Or you're talking to someone, all of a sudden you're like, they're not even listening to me. How do you know? They're looking right at you. You can see it. You can see it in their eyes. You can see it in their face. So I can easily see it in my dog's faces. I think the key to that is I am looking at them very intently all the time. Again, because we're having a conversation, right? So I'm looking at my dogs moment by moment and saying, are you with me? And they either are or they're not, right? And then another minute or two moment goes by and I'm like, you still with me? You still with me? Maybe I'll hear something in the environment. I'll look at my dog. You still good? Right? And so I can tell by their eyes, by their face, by their expression, predominantly. I can also tell by how they respond to cues and by their work, right? So if their work is really crisp and sharp and fast and responsive, they're fully paying attention, right? I also kind of say, all right, if I train in my garage and nothing's going on and my dog's like really fast, really brisk, and giving me a lot of energy, and then let's say I go to a new building and their work is, it's flatter, it's just not quite as energetic, it's not quite as fast, it's not quite as crisp. Well, it's because their attention's split, right? They're not able to give me everything they have because part of their brain is on the environment. They're not fully engaged. So really, it's very keen observation, right? And not just of the dog's face, but also their behavior.
It sounds like then that it might look, more than a little different, I guess, from dog to dog. Kind of, you do have to know your dog and what your dog's engagement looks like. Is that accurate?
I would say so, but I still would say what they would have in common is, first of all, consistent eye contact, right? And consistent ears up, kind of like body leaning towards you, energy towards you, and also like response to cues. Now, if my dog in my living room, and that's where I train all the time, and I say sit and it responds slowly, well, then I don't expect it to respond quickly somewhere new. But if it's responding very promptly and quickly to sit in my living room over a period of time, then, and I go somewhere else and it's not responding like that, that's a difference, right? So if you see a difference, then you could surmise that your dog is not fully engaged.
When you are thinking about training engagement, is it like a skill that you think about building? Is it something that you look to kind of capture because the dog already offers it naturally to some degree? Is it both? Like how would you classify it?
I mean, honestly, I teach it. I start teaching it literally very young, like 7 weeks old, right? Because it's a trick, right? It's just they're offering a behavior, right? And then I just build on that slowly over time. It has to be taught because look, we have to be very realistic, right? Like, I think a lot of people struggle with engagement and get very frustrated over it because it sounds like, or I think people have this idea that the dog should love us so much and if we have a really great relationship with our dog, then our dog is going to want to choose us. Well, that's not realistic, right? Because they're animals, and what the way they interact with their world, like every day, all the time, is they look at things, they smell things, they listen to things. That's how they process their environment. It's how they feel safe. And the things that are very, very inherently self-reinforcing to them are things in the environment, right? Like motion, smells, sounds. That's inherently very valuable. So if my dog is out in the environment and the environment is giving them stimulation, like that's valuable to them, like on a scale of 1 to 10, at a 10,
Mm-hmm.
not for nothing, me standing there, I'll be lucky if I'm a 3 or 4, I don't know, right?
Yeah.
If I have a reinforcer, how valuable is it? Is it an 8 or a 9? Because if it's a 4 or a 5, it's not going to outweigh the 10, right? So we have to we have to build over time value for everything we do with the dog, value within the reinforcement, value with our communication. And we have to teach the dog, if you give me your engagement, it's going to be worth your while. I'm going to make it worth your while. And I'm going to build on that over time. And then we can start working on, okay, when here's a small distraction, oh, you ignored it. Look, I'm going to give you a bigger reinforcement event, and your dog starts to go, oh, it's worth my while to ignore that and give you my engagement. And then you just have to build on it. And it's something that needs to be worked on forever, because the reality is, again, the environment is highly either reinforcing or scary. So for Zeal, the environment, people were always like uncomfortable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to work on that his entire career. For Zaina, the environment is so inherently fascinating that I am always going to have to remind her and show her that I can offer something more valuable. Because if I don't or can't, she's like, I'm out. I got this. I can entertain myself over here. And then there's dogs, everywhere in between. But it's something that is taught and worked on forever.
So you kind of started to talk about this in there, and I'd love to have you go a little deeper. What is it that does make it so that a dog, can or will choose their handler over everything else that's happening around them? When you step in that competition ring, you don't necessarily have those reinforcers. So can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah. So one huge piece that I talk about all the time is just clear communication, right? Because as you know, from a relationship, right? Any relationship you're in, family members, friends, whatever, if the communication is poor, it's really frustrating and the relationship struggles.
Yep.
If the communication's really clear and you listen to that person, right? Because as humans, we're horrible dog listeners. Right? We like to tell them what to do. And then when they clearly give us information that they don't understand, or they're confused, or they're overwhelmed, we don't hear it at all. So if we listen and the communication's good, the dog is going to, because dogs naturally want to please us, right? So that's huge. Then we have to make our reward events reinforcing. So sometimes people do things that they as humans think is reinforcing. Classic one is, now this is not every dog, but a lot of dogs were like, wow, we bend down and we pet them, and the dog jumps away going, dude, don't do that, please. And we just keep doing it. And so the dog's not finding that reinforcing. Yeah. So you think you're reinforcing the dog, and the dog's like, oh God, she's going to do that crazy stuff again. Like, why? Right?
Yeah.
So I have to say, for my dog, for this dog, because it's very different for a lot of my dogs are different. What does this dog find reinforcing? Right? And then I have to also find things. So for example, for Zesty, praise is okay for him, but he likes motion. So if I move, I do motion games, like I sidestep to the right and he dives into me. He loves that. That's reinforcing for him. So I build that in. So I'll say, yes, that's his marker. Instead of just handing him a cookie, I do the game, I build that in, and then I'll give him a cookie, right? So now I can use this motion game in the ring kind of as a reinforcer to bridge the gap, right? I think with dogs, confidence and knowing they're right is self-reinforcing. So Zaina in the ring gets a kick out of doing a task, and then she comes in and she leaps in front of me and she sticks her little chest out and she's like, ha, I did it, and I did it really well, right? And that's it. She's feeling really good about herself. And because she's like, I did it, right? And she knows, because she really understands her job, again, because the information's been really clear. It's been trained really well. It's been proofed really well. And she's like, look at me, I did it. And Zesty's like getting like that too. Like I just showed him the other day, and he did signals and he came flying in. I was like, oh God, he's not even gonna, like, I didn't even think he was going to stop in front. Like, he just leaped up in the air, and then he did in the last second. I was like, he's going to take me out, because he's like, look at me, I did it, right? And he's like, or they leap and give me extra bounces in their finish that I didn't ask for, because they're like so proud of themselves. So if you build like a lot of confidence into your dog, then a lot of the behaviors, and I treat my individual behaviors like tricks, right? So my chains become a series of tricks. Then some of that stuff becomes self-reinforcing. And that's, super valuable in the ring, because the ring is, very, very challenging.
Yeah.
So dogs, they really want to be right. They really want to make us happy. We just have to, a lot of times, like, my biggest challenge always is, how do I become a better communicator with this individual dog, right? Because if I can communicate well, I would almost say that's like 3/4 of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not easy though.
Of course not. If it was, everybody would be out there kicking butt. But so let's say handler's been working on this. They're getting pretty good engagement pretty consistently in training. How do you know when a dog or a team is ready to take that engagement, outside of like their training facility or what have you, and into that real world and really kind of the harder distraction levels? Like, how do you judge that?
So what I've been doing now is so I would say not even that long ago, and I did this myself and taught it, was we teach the behaviors really well in an environment the dog knows, right? And then we take it elsewhere, starting with something like maybe not super crazy distracting, and then build from there. But I would say in the last maybe year and a half, 2 years, changed that and seen some pretty phenomenal results. And if you think about it, it makes sense. If I train my dog and teach it the exercises and engagement in what I would call, let's say, like a clean environment, right? Then my dog learns, in this context, I do these behaviors. Then one day I go, okay, these behaviors now. Now we're going to add some distractions. And the dog's like, whoa, you completely changed the context, right? And that's hard, because dogs are not good at generalizing. So what we're doing now is, and I'm having my students do, is take their puppies, and I'm like, just start training them out wherever you are. Bring them to class with your other dog. You take your other dog to the parking lot or the store, you bring the puppy. So my training partner, like, we set up all kinds of crazy proofing scenarios when we train in the building. So we'll put random items out. We'll have toys moving around. We'll change the picture all the time, right? We just train the puppy there. When we're training the puppy, I would have my old dog out, and my old dog would be running around, or I'd be doing retrieves with him. So the dogs are learning to just focus around distractions right out of the gate. It's been absolutely fascinating. within like what I would consider a very relatively short amount of time, like a year old, some of these dogs are going, they see somebody coming, or they see or they notice a distraction is in the area, and in response to that, they immediately like give their owner intense concentration, so that the distraction is cueing engagement. So the dog goes, oh, it's a distraction. That means I give you engagement. It's absolutely amazing. And these dogs are really resilient, really confident. And their engagement is phenomenal. So I think that the sooner you get your dog exposed to distractions, now, again, not overwhelming the dog. I'm not saying take a dog that's just learning engagement and put them in the middle of the hardware store on a Saturday, but out of the far end of the parking lot, right? Or a different training building, or like I said, wherever you're going to go with your other dogs, and they just learn to work in those environments.
So I was going to ask kind of how you begin generalizing those skills, but it sounds like a lot of it is just taking whatever you're working on the road. Is that accurate summary?
Yeah. So, I mean, if the dog is just learning engagement per se, right, where like they're just learning that if I look at you, I get the cookie. If I look at you for a little longer, I get the cookie. Then that's what I would do in the new environment. But yes, whatever I'm teaching my dog, now keeping in mind, I may need to simplify things a little bit, right? Or if my dog's learning how to heel at home and I try to do it in an environment and it can't, okay, well, can you do tricks then instead? And the dog's like, oh yeah, I can do that. Cool, that's great. We can do that. Or can you just do some basic engagement games? Great, that's good enough. But at least you're working on something, and you're working on it in this distracting environment. I think it depends on the dog's age, the dog's, how much training it's had. I think if you take a puppy and you're good with your training, you should be able to take it wherever you want and just teach it whatever you're working on wherever you go. Right? If you have a dog that you've been training a while and they have not been to new environments, well, then it's going to be a big change for them. You're probably going to have to simplify what you ask them to do, right? You're not going to get the same quality of work, or they're not going to be able to work at the same level when you go somewhere distracting. So just lower your expectations, ask them for work. If they can't do it, ask for something easier. Can't do that, ask for something even easier. There will be something they can do, and then I just look to get a little bit of success, a little bit of focused work, and I'm good. I'm out.
For a dog that's kind of been through a lot of this, during a competition day, are there key moments when you kind of check in on your dog's engagement? Like moments when you really just want to make sure, okay, is my dog still engaged? Are we still on the right track?
I never break engagement. So my contract with my dogs is I will do acclimation. That's huge and very, very important. And it's important that we do enough acclimation. Recently, I've discovered that the majority of people are not spending enough time on acclimation, right? And so there's like, okay, here's your acclimation time. And then they're cueing the dog to work, and the dog's trying to work, but it can't because it didn't have enough time to, it didn't have enough time to satiate on the environment and then let go of it. So they need enough acclimation time. Once my dog looks at me and says, okay, I'm ready to work, I am engaged with my dog. My dog is engaged with me. And that doesn't end unless we're done working and I say we're done and you go in your crate, or I have a cue where I put my dog down and they lay on their hip. And that's just kind of like a standby cue, right? Like hang tight, I need to get something, or hang tight, I need to look at something. But other than that, we are connected 100% of the time. So I'm looking at them, they're looking at me. I'm focused mentally on them, they are mentally focused on me.
You mentioned acclimation in there. Can you just kind of define what you're talking about or kind of describe it for folks?
Yeah, so you have a couple of options. I prefer motion, right? So my dogs are on a cue that they've been taught. That means walk next to me on a short leash. Bless you.
Thank you.
um, because that's a safety issue, right? Like if I'm at a trial and there's chaos going on, I want my dog close to me. So they walk next to me, but it's not healing. And we just walk around and they can look to their heart's content. At some point, my dog checks in and says, hey, looks at me like, okay, I'm good. And then I'll ask the dog, all right, can you work? Let's see, we start our warm up. If the dog can start my warm up, we're good to go. If the dog starts it, but like keeps losing engagement, then I'm like, yeah, you're not ready. We need to walk around a little more. Now, for some people, they prefer to stand still. Maybe for their dog, that works better. And the dog just looks around. I don't like the dogs to like stare at something. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times if they're doing that for an amount of time, it's self-reinforcing. Like if I let Zaina stare at something interesting, she'd never come off that because she's like, oh, that's fascinating. Wow. Right. So that's why I prefer to keep moving with my dogs. But if for some people standing, that works fine. Again, it's the dog takes in the environment until the dog says, I'm good with that, right? Mm-hmm. Which means separately, you have to teach your dog how to offer engagement, right? So we teach that separately so the dog knows how to do it. So basically, the end product is I walk into a new location or I walk into the trial building. I put my dog on cue. I say, with me, we walk. And at some point, my dog looks at me and will start offering me behaviors. At that point, I know they're ready to get started. But for, especially early on, and for some dogs, it could take 20 minutes. Right? Over time, it gets shorter and shorter. I mean, my dogs literally now will walk into like a busy hardware store, look around like for 30 seconds, if that, and then look at me and go, all right, I got it. Let's go. Let's start working. Right. But at the beginning, it can take a really long time.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that, kind of once your dog is checked in, you kind of stay checked in as well. Can you talk more about how important it is, how important our handling is in creating and keeping that engaged dog? And maybe, what are the do's and don'ts when we're talking about that for competition?
Yeah, so that's incredibly important, right? I can't tell you how many times I see the trainer looks away. The dog goes, oh, you looked away? I'm going to look away. Not because they're being naughty, but they're like, I guess we're looking around, right? Mm-hmm. And then they look back and then they're like, hey, dog, what are you doing? And I'm like, you broke the connection first, right? Uh-huh. So again, it's a contract. How can I say to my dog, hey, you must look at me if I'm not paying attention to them? That's completely unfair. That's not a partnership. It's not a team, right? When people start doing this, they're like, oh my gosh, it's really hard. Like my head hurt. It's yeah. So imagine how hard it is for the dog. It is hard for us to maintain focus for that long. Then they do it at home. Then they go to a new location and they're like, oh my gosh, I kept getting distracted. I couldn't concentrate. I said, exactly. This is what your dog is going through. But so just like for the dog, it's a skill for us humans, right? Mm-hmm. That we have to learn and build and develop and get better and better and better at, right? like they'll be at a store and they'll hear a noise and they look and the dog looks and I'm like, what? Stop looking over there. Look at your dog, right? And also too, like how do I know what my dog is doing or thinking or experiencing? And how do I know what information to give my dog if I'm not looking at my dog? Right? Like I like, how do I know? I don't. So I have to be looking at my dog. So it is 100% like whether I'm giving a seminar or teaching, I will 100%. I'm fanatical about the handler. It's your job. It's your obligation. You must stay focused on your dog. Right. And I understand it's hard and it's challenging, but you have to work on that. Right. And you can't say to your dog, hey, dog, what are you doing if you're not doing it? Right. And video is great for that because can't lie, right? If your dog looked away and you backtrack your video 4 seconds and you looked away first.
Well, we know where the problem came from. Yeah. That's funny.
You know, and if you watch people in the ring, like dogs, look, they have no idea what is happening. Like they don't understand, oh, this is a trial, this is important, there's a cue, there's a title. Like all they're doing is following cues and context, right? So they're in this building, they're in this ring, the stranger's in the ring with them. You know, if you suddenly disconnect from the dog, I see this all the time, like look away or lead, just walk away. And the dog's like, wait for me. The second the handler disconnects, watch the dog's face. The dog immediately gets concerned. Immediately. The dog's like, what happened? You know, because in that moment, you left them adrift. You're assuming they know what to do next. Like, oh, just follow along. No, the dog's like, wait, give me a cue. Tell me what to do. And connection is also an emotional anchor. Like I'm supporting my dogs. Like I'm looking at my dogs and I'm like, it's good. You're okay. Right. So like when I did rally the other day, my dogs have been doing obedience for many years. The day before we were in that building, we did utility. The next day I go in the ring and we're doing rally. I start doing the course and both of my dogs, same thing. At some point they're looking at me like, what is happening? Like, what are we even doing? Right. And in that moment, I'm able to look at my dog and I'm like, it's okay. You're fine. Good boy. Good girl. Come on, let's go. If I'm not really paying attention, I'm leaving them hanging. Right. And they're coming along like, oh God, I'm unsure. I don't know. Right. And I'm looking at them. I'm like, come on, it's all right. Let's go. You're good. Right. Yeah. And you can see that when I do that, they're like, okay, all right, I'll do what you say, even though this is really weird. Yeah. So that's the part where I'm saying like, it's a conversation. And so it's my job to support them. And it's the same in the ring with obedience. Even if I can't say anything to them, many times my dogs are like, and I'm looking at them. And in my head, I say to them, it's good. You're fine. Yep, you're right. You've got this. Come on, keep going. And they absolutely can read that. And they're like, okay. And then they're fine.
So we're talking about this, at least in part, because you're offering a 6-week class specifically on engagement in August, Enhanced Engagement Building Competition Skills. Can you talk a little more about the class, kind of what you'll cover, what you won't, maybe who might want to sign up?
Yeah, so basically, theoretically, you should have some basic engagement training on your dog. And now we're going to take it to the next level. We're going to we're going to look at it within the exercises, longer chains, definitely with distractions. You're definitely going to be getting out of the house and out and about. Having said that, every class I ever teach has people with a wide range of abilities. So I know I'm going to have probably one or two people that don't have a lot of engagement on their dog yet, and it's fine. I'm totally fine with, giving people whatever they need.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, we definitely we're going to look at, taking engagement to the next level for sure, getting you out of the house, because that's so, so important. It takes a long time for the dogs to generalize engagement. And if you're just training at home or in your training building, and then you ask them to trial, they're never going to be able to do it. It's just too hard. And it ends up being really fun. Like, people will a lot of times be hesitant at the beginning. They'll be nervous. They'll be unsure. They'll be uncomfortable. But very quickly, within a week or two, they love it. It's super fun. And the dogs like it. They like variety, right? It's interesting. We'll do a lot of games. We'll be looking at, the things I talked about a little bit earlier, like maintaining engagement. I'm sorry. Using reinforcers that you can use in the ring,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that you're reinforcing your dog for staying engaged, and you're helping keep your dog engaged. Maintaining engagement at a distance, right? When you leave your dog, because that's super challenging. I mean, it's one thing to have your dog when they're right next to you or right in front of you, but when you leave them, that's really challenging as well. So we're also going to be looking at that. To me, this is one of my favorite classes, engagement, because really the majority of people know how to train the behaviors, right? So whether it's obedience or rally, the dogs know how to do the behaviors, the signs, the exercises. It's engagement. That's what the majority of the teams are missing. And really, even for me, like with my dogs, like if my dog is engaged, the quality of their work is good. If my dog is not engaged, doesn't matter how well or highly trained the dog is, they're not fully focused. Their work is not going to be that good.
Any kind of final thoughts or anything else you kind of want people to know if they're listening and considering signing up?
So I think that all dogs can have really good engagement. We have to understand that it is hard for the dog and why it's hard. But I think if we understand that, it makes more sense. And then the fact that we need to mindfully teach it and give the dog information and explain to the dog, how to do it and build it up over time, like it makes sense. And we're not just kind of fumbling around and feeling bad because we're not interesting enough, right? Or our relationship, our quote unquote relationship, is not strong enough, or our dog just doesn't like us enough. Or sometimes people will say, oh, their dog is environmental. Nah, I look at the dog, now that's just a normal dog saying, I like the environment, right? Because they do. I mean, if I sit on my patio at my house, my dogs aren't sitting there staring at me. They're looking around.
Yeah.
They're listening, they're smelling, they're looking at things because they're just being dogs. So we can all have really good engagement. And when you do, to me, that is magical, right? Like that is, to me, the most beautiful, the most enjoyable thing is like when I'm working my dog and my dog's like giving me all they have, and they're, consciously tuning out the environment. Like that to me is my holy grail. It's my goal when training is, can I have that for my entire run in the ring? Because if I have that, then that really is like a dance, like it's just the two of us together. No one else exists. And it really is. It's beautiful. I love it. It's my favorite thing.
Aw, I love that. And I think that's a great note for us to kind of wrap up on. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, as always. Always a pleasure.
Definitely a pleasure on my part too. And thanks to all of our listeners and our viewers for tuning in. We'll be back next week, this time with Julie Simons, to talk about handling your nosework dog. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. You can do that in iTunes, the podcast app of your choice, or over on YouTube so you never miss an episode. Today's show is brought to you by the Fenzi Dog Sports Academy. Special thanks to Denise Fenzi for supporting this podcast. Music provided royalty-free by bensound.com. The track featured here is called Buddy. Audio editing and video editing provided by Chris Lang. Thanks again for tuning in, and happy training!